Got some big fish.
Are you kidding? Oh my God!
This big mama came out.
This is the biggest fish I've ever killed bullfish.
Sun's out. Buffs out, baby. Good job. What a night. Right there in the rock. Look, there's a big one. Nice shot, Taylor. Get him, Smitty. Doubled up, baby. Hey! Good shot, man. There we go. We got two of them now. He's a good gator.
He's a monster.
That's a good gator. Wow. Love bowfish. Come here. Time for a free boat ride in the AMS boat. Hey everybody, welcome to the Bowfishing Buzz, presented by AMS Bowfishing and
Bigmouth Buffs sponsoring as well.
My name is Matthew, and I'm here with D. Schmitty.
Yep.
And as you can see right here,
Special guest
for the Bowfishing Buzz podcast, episode 35, Schmitty.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's that many.
Special guest, Miss Cindy Braun, president of AMS Bowfishing.
Yeah, she's been doing it way longer than most of you out there listening. Yes, absolutely.
This is awesome to have you on, Cindy, because you've been involved with the sport of bowfishing for a long time. You're actually a pioneer of bowfishing. And there's really not a lot of the audience out there really doesn't know a lot about Cindy Braun and who she is. So we're excited to have you on and to hear some of your stories. I was actually looking through a lot of the old photos and videos yesterday, getting pieces together for the YouTube version, which you're going to want to check out because there's going to be some awesome footage on there of Cindy on her gator hunts, on some older photos from years back when you shot your shark, paddlefish, Texas, Gator Gar, giant smallmouth buffs. So you're going to want to check that out on the AMS YouTube page as well because it's going to be pretty cool. We're going to have Cindy in action.
I think what the cool thing about some of that footage, Matt, if some of our listeners are recent followers of AMS within the last 5-6 years of starting to watch or listen, I think there's going to be some footage on there that people haven't seen before.
Exactly.
And it's quality, it's grade A stuff. It's really good. It's just, back a little ways.
It's back a couple of years. We were recording with the old VHS tapes back then and stuff. So
wow.
The footage is good. It's not like it is these days right now. With
it was good for its time. Great for its time.
Exactly. So we're looking forward to having you on here, Cindy. First, we're going to get into a little bit of bowfishing news here. Derek and I will actually be heading down to the Bass Pro U.S. Open Bowfishing Championship at the end of the month. We're going to have a little booth there and stuff, so make sure to come on up and say hello to both of us and
absolutely.
talk and check out the gear and equipment and tell us where your hot spots are and how your scouting has been going for the big tournament down there. And also like to give a hats out to AMS Pro staff team, Captain Ryan Devine and Team Descalin. They won this past weekend's Spawnathon tournament down in Kentucky with a nice load of, I think they had like close to 480 some pounds in their 20 fish. Looked like a lot of them were smallmouth buffs, so
that's
congrats
awesome.
to them as well. It's
Good
always
job,
great
guys.
to see those guys doing good. They're a great team. They do a lot of work. And I really wasn't sure what was going to happen going into the season with the captain, Ryan Devine, because last year when they had those horrific tornadoes down there, he was actually at his house with his wife and their kids. And they actually had to go down into the cellar, into the basement there, and the tornado completely wiped out their house. That whole subdivision was completely wiped out. So I really wasn't sure what Ryan was going to do, but he's back doing what he does best with his team there. Those guys do a great job, so hats out to those guys as well. So I think we're going to get right into the podcast there.
Absolutely.
With
Let's
Cindy.
get rolling.
So Cindy, I think what we want to hear from you a little bit about who is Cindy Braun? How did you get involved in this bowfishing whole deal for so many years? And kind of a little bit about your background from years ago before you even really owned AMS Bowfishing. So if you could just tell us a little bit about that, that would be awesome.
Well, I don't know. Bowfishing's been a part of my life forever. I grew up with it. My dad invented the retriever reel when I was a kid, a pretty small kid actually, and he would go out bow fishing and whatnot, and he'd bring back a load of carp. And I remember, I have pictures of me standing by him when I was about 2 years old.
Oh my gosh!
And he'd have a load of carp, and me and my sister were about the same size as the carp. So there's that. And then I was always when I was also 2 years old, I was also the fisherman of the family. So I was always out sitting on the dock in my little life jacket with my fishing pole, trying to catch bluegills and crappies off the dock. So I was always an outdoors girl from very little. But then my dad started, tinkering with the retriever and fine-tuning his designs and whatnot. And so, of course, I ended up in the boat with him, and I was out there bow fishing and shot my first carp when I was probably 7 or 8. I don't know. I was young. I had a little bear bow, and
that's
whatever.
awesome.
And I've been doing it ever since. So it's just
That's
really how I grew
cool.
up.
That's really cool. Because when I think of Jack, your father, Jack Lassie, invented the retriever. When I think of Jack, I think of somebody whose mind is always working and trying to figure out tools. Because for those that don't know, your father, Jack Lassie, owns All Metal Stamping in Abbotsford.
Right.
And they do a lot of molding injections over there, a lot of stuff.
Fire door hardware. They make it's called vision panel frames. You'll see them a lot in hospitals. The metal frames around lead line doors and whatnot. And they also make hinges, and then they have a molding department as well.
Right. So I always think of Jack as his mind is always working. Every time you talk to him, you can just see in his eyes that he's thinking about stuff.
Oh yeah.
His wheels are always turning.
They're always turning, and it was so cool. The story of how Jack would go out and start bow fishing. You guys had a cabin on Mead Lake in Wisconsin, and you guys would go out and he would go bow fishing, but he wanted something to bring his arrow back quicker.
Right. Yeah, he grew up on a farm, and I think he'd tell stories a little bit that they'd go out and they'd tinker around in the creeks in the back or whatever, and they would shoot. They'd have coffee cans wrapped around their bow.
Okay.
And,
Yep.
The inventor that he is, that was just never good enough. So he was always trying to improve that. So then, as he was a kid, he would do that, and then as he saw carp splashing around, I suppose, on Mead Lake, he thought, there's a better way. So there's always a better way. So
That's very cool. Was there a point, Cindy? What point in the design process of him building the retriever, like at what point did you guys think, or Jack think, like, wow, this could be turned into a business? Was there kind of a revolutionary, oh my gosh, this could be a part of the outdoor industry that's missing, or did it just kind of eventually just kind of all fall into place?
I kind of think it all fell into place. Like I said, he sees a need and he kind of invents something to it, and then his strength really is in the invention of things, it seems.
Yes.
Yep. So he's, he had that design, and he fine-tuned it, and we've fine-tuned it for years and whatnot. But it always was run as a secondary type, very small portion of what all metal stamping truly is.
Sure.
It's just this tiny little reel that really probably gave him more headaches than it did benefits at the
Right.
time, because his focus really is the fire door hardware and the business that he runs. But the retriever was kind of maybe secondary, the smaller line.
Yep.
So.
And back then, from what I understand, how the story kind of started was your dad built the retriever for himself.
Right.
While he was out there shooting fish.
Right.
And some of his buddies that would go along with them were like, wow.
Where'd you get that?
Get that? That's really cool. And Jack's like, well, I made it, know?
Yeah.
And so then they asked him, can you make us one of them?
Right. Yeah. He was always, I remember this, there's 2 guys that frequented Mead Lake, Ron. Ron and his buddy Randy.
Yep.
And once Randy, I think, was putting riprap along our shoreline, and somehow they got to talking about bow fishing. My dad said, hey, I have this reel, you should take it and try it out. So he gave one to Randy on Mead Lake. And then then Randy'd go around fishing, and then the next guy saw it, and then it was all a lot of word of mouth and hands-on type for a while. And then things just kind of took off, I guess.
Yep.
That's cool.
That's really cool. Because at first, I remember they were sold in little white boxes, and it was a gold retriever.
Yep.
The metal and stuff was all gold, and it had that little bottle on there. And those were just being sold pretty much just in some local archery shops in the beginning.
Right. Yeah, they did what they could, with what they had, I guess, at All Metal. For that, they just sold real locally. They had a couple sales rep groups. Well, one main guy.
That's cool.
But I remember my sister drew the envelope. She drew a little carp on our first mailing envelope, and we did a little telemarketing thing. And
that's really neat.
It just really started out pretty basic. Kind of funny actually thinking about it, but yeah, I don't know.
Wow. So then let's move ahead in the years here. You graduated from Abbotsford High School, and then you went to college.
Yeah.
Correct.
Then I went to Eau Claire,
Okay.
University of Eau Claire in Wisconsin. I didn't quite know what I was going to do. I didn't know, I was thinking about architecture. I was thinking about, I don't know, all kinds of things. And of course, business management was one of them. And I finally just settled on that. I thought, well, I don't know, I'd like to own an archery shop or something someday. Of course, it wasn't quite an archery shop at that time yet. I had to probably meet my husband and then get into hunting there. But I don't know. I always did. I always kind of felt like I wanted to run something someday, run
Really?
a business of some sort. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And you married your high school sweetheart.
Yes.
Jeff. You guys were together since high school and stuff.
Right.
And right now he's the vice president
Right.
of
right.
AMS Bowfishing here, and he does a great job. He actually had to quit his job. He was in computers,
Right.
a computer tech.
Right. Yep.
And things were rolling so good here. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but things were kind of going so good here that he actually is working here full time now as well. So it's
Right.
pretty cool that you married your high school sweetheart from back
Yeah.
at Abbotsford High School, and you're working together and stuff. So you graduate from college. What was the next step? Because in 1997, did you bring AMS Bowfishing from Abbotsford to Stratford?
Yeah, that was when we moved here. But I graduated in 1994,
Okay.
93, 94, somewhere in there. And I was applying for jobs and whatnot, and I decided that I kind of wanted to be part of the family business a little bit, and my
Okay.
dad kind of needed somebody to help there. So actually, I started working for All Metal Stamping, and I was in the shipping department.
Oh.
And I was the logistical person, but I was always, the retriever was always there. It was sitting in its little white boxes, and it just drove me a little bit crazy that thing was just sitting there. And I was the one in the whole place probably that was into bow fishing and into the outdoors. So I just was kind of natural for me to keep gravitating toward it and wanting to do something with it. I always wanted to fiddle with it. I was helping them, I don't know, do whatever. I was just always trying to be involved with that, and eventually I just kind of took it over.
Wow, that's really cool.
Not quite took it over, but it was kind of became my thing, and then people
Yeah.
would start asking me the questions and how do we do this, and pretty soon I was in contact with the dealers and whatnot, and one thing led to the next. So
So that
That's
was
crazy.
in Abbotsford when that was doing. At that time, were you living in Stratford at that time?
no. For a while I was working at All Metal Stamping, I was actually living at my parents' cabin on Mead Lake for
okay.
a couple of years, a year and a half. Jeff was going to school in Eau Claire also. He was a little bit behind me, so
Yep.
he had to finish school. So he was going to the west, and I was driving to Abbotsford East. So we lived there for a while, and then we moved to Dorchester, which is a dinky little town north of Abbotsford. And actually there, I started assembling retrievers out of our apartment.
Oh wow.
So I had some of those tables that roll around the shop here now.
Yep.
Actually, the one that I was working on yesterday, I had to laugh because that was one of the stupid little tables that I had
how
in our
cool.
apartment. I would sit there and build retrievers, and
And at time, that's all it was at that time,
at that
right?
time, that's all we made was the retriever.
The
right.
310 retriever.
The 310 retriever, and then we would box them up in the little white boxes and ship them out. So
That old 310, boy, that thing was a tank.
it was a
That
tank.
thing
for
was
sure.
a tank.
Right.
You couldn't break that thing. It was
Really?
unreal.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
unbelievable. Wow.
So-
So you were boxing those all up in your house, working on them. Are you building them there too? Or are you assembling them?
I was assembling them there.
Were you assembling them
It was
there?
actually that was more the assembly. Actually,
Okay.
I said that wrong. So yeah, I'd be assembling them at the apartment, and then I'd take the bodies to the shop, and then we'd box them up and ship them at the shop.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
So-
cool. And are you doing any bow fishing during this time?
Well, we always got out to do a little bit of bow fishing. At that time, I think it was more local. We didn't do a lot of big trips or
Mm-hmm.
anything. Always Mead Lake, and really it was always over there. We didn't, now we fish the Old Plain quite often, and
Yep.
we've got a few other favorite lakes now, but it was always the Old Plain. My dad had a little lake north of Thorpe that he would go to, and there was always big monster carp in there if you could catch them, if you could catch the timing it right. And then there was also the Black River that we would also float. We'd put, we
Yeah.
had those 2 orange Coleman canoes. That's like my biggest memory, I guess, is we'd always put those goofy Coleman canoes together. We'd tie them together with two 2x12 pieces of lumber, front and back. And then my dad had a rudder made in the back so that the back end would always trail properly. Mm-hmm. And we'd mount a little Minn Kota trolling motor up to the front, and we'd drag those canoes off of a snowmobile trailer down the bank and into the water. And we'd be standing up there on the planks. That was our platform up there, and we'd float the river.
Is there footage of this contraption anywhere?
I have some pictures.
Oh my gosh, I would love to see that.
I need these, Cindy. I need these.
I still have the rudder, and it's not. Wow. And you should, every time I see a Coleman canoe, no matter where it is, or garage sale or whatever, I always, I gotta buy that. I should buy one because I can rebuild it. And Jeff always rolls his eyes and thinks I'm crazy, but that's nothing new.
That is really cool. So you would float the river.
Yeah.
So would you park a vehicle at a certain bridge and then park another vehicle? And
it was always a big coordinated event. Okay. You had to have your friend, family, whoever. Somebody would have, two people have to drive, and you drop off your pickup vehicle, and then you drive around where you take off and launch. Put your boats in, float your 4-hour float, and it was about 4 miles, 4 hours. But we had just crazy, stupid, cool things that happened every time on those trips. Yeah. Sometimes the water would be too high, sometimes it'd be too low. Right. When it's too low, you have to get out and drag your canoes. Sometimes there'd be trees down, you'd have to drag your canoes up and over the trees. Sometimes a raccoon climbed up a tree and he was up there clunking around like he was drunk. He was just up there clumsier than clumsy, falling through the branches. Like, my God, what is that raccoon doing? And finally he fell down and thumped.
Oh my gosh.
Once a farmer came out, he was looking for a calf. Did you guys see a calf anywhere in here? And just weird, goofy things. But
what kind of fish were you shooting?
Actually, it's kind of funny. We'd always take our bow fishing equipment, but the fishing on the river was quite terrible. There'd be little dinky little 6-inch. We call them stripers. I don't even know what they were, but they're these skinny little fish that they hug the rocks and they just zip, 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 zip.
Was there any carp in there?
Once I think we saw carp, but there was always suckers and red horse.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
But we were lucky if we got one fish. One time we did get 16 fish. That was like our biggest. That was our record.
It's crazy that you remember that exact number.
No, it was 16. Absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was 16, and it was like an unbelievable trip on the Black River because you get one or two if you're lucky, and most of the fun was really just floating the river, but we're always shooting.
That's really cool. Too. So when did you move to Stratford?
In 1997, I guess, is when we moved to Stratford. I was doing the work again out of the house, and we were planning on building a shed so I could work in the shed and can just make this my business, or this was gonna be my job. Jeff was gonna be the IT guy, and I was just gonna run AMS, the AMS side of things while I could, I guess. So we bought a house on 16 acres, and then we built our shop that fall, and we were in there. I was in there working, but.
So were the sheds, you had the house built, were the sheds back there built already this time?
Nope. The house, we bought it was a established house. The house was already there.
Okay.
But then we just knew that we had to build a shed. It was going to be a 40 by 80 shed in the backyard where I could punch bottles and assemble retrievers and put some line in them and box them up and ship them out.
So are you doing this all by yourself, or do you have people working for you?
No, it was all me. For a couple of years I did it all by myself. That year, actually, then we had our first child, Sawyer. So that slowed things down a little bit, but then he also was my little helper in the shop. I'd bring him up there and put him in a 24-unit box on the shelf, and there's my kid up there with me shipping.
Perfect.
Wow.
So he'd hang out up there with me for a while, and then we started to get more and more busy. Then I had Sierra. Then the kids started to be a little bit too much. So I had a little helper come in with the kids, and then pretty soon that wasn't enough, and I told Jeff either you come home and help me, or I'm going to have to hire somebody because this is getting to be too much. And so pretty soon we decided to come home and help.
That's cool. When did you start adding more bow fishing gear, just besides the retriever? When do you remember when that, like when you started adding arrows and points and started building those?
It was a couple years in. Pretty much the first couple of years we just focused on the retriever, but then it was obvious that we needed to have more. So I think we went to arrows first. Then we probably designed the arrow rest. We had channel rest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then whatever we developed into bigger and better things.
Sure,
like this, so.
sure.
That's very cool.
So
Just
97.
a side note with that.
Yeah.
People listening don't know this. We know it. But I went to school with Sawyer. We were in the same grade at little St. Joe's school. And I remember Sawyer always talking about this crazy sport. Because I love to hunt and fish. And he's talking about shooting fish with a bow and arrow. And I always thought that was so, like, wow, that's like the perfect combination of the two.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was a little Schaefer. Sawyer and I were good friends in school. You guys took me out a couple times.
Right.
We have pictures of that.
Yep,
Yeah.
I know that picture. I'm holding that fish with the gaff.
Yep.
I'm wearing a designated hitter, long sleeve shirt.
See, and you remember stuff
See,
like
I
that.
do.
remember that?
I
Yeah.
totally do. And I remember the first night we went out, I did not shoot a fish, and we went out the next day, and I shot a fish, but it got off, and I was
Devastated.
ruined. And Jeff shot one, and he let me hold it and take a picture, and I remember being like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this is crazy."
Sure.
It wasn't even the fish I shot, so
Yeah.
just a little side story there. It was so cool.
That's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
So, when did you start hiring or needing employees? And I know a lot of people also worked a lot part-time at their own homes,
Yeah.
assembling and putting like slide kits together and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Kind of right away. I guess I was assembling retrievers for a while, and then I realized pretty quickly that I was too busy for that, so I had to have help for that. So
Yeah.
actually, there was a lady from All Metal Stamping that previously did it before I kind of got in there. But then I asked her if she wouldn't mind helping again. So she started assembling out of her home, and then I could focus on, finishing that off and boxing things up and whatnot. So then, Jeff was there for, I don't even know, a year or so, and then we needed more help and a little bit more help. So it just kept developing into needing a little more help.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
as we grew and got busier and added more products, I guess we were focused on the product development and then we needed help with the production side of things.
Right. So everything is going very well. You're very busy. Now you're selling to more places than just your local archery shops here in Wisconsin.
Right,
Are you
right.
starting to sell out of state then?
Yeah.
Yep.
Then we were out of state. And then kind of around throughout the country, and we were starting to get definitely busy enough to have a few extra people to help. So.
Wow. And that was out of I remember the small little shop behind your house up there.
Yeah.
It wasn't small, but for all the stuff that was in there, I mean,
Yeah. Well, we added
How many
on,
times did we add
added
on?
3 times. Yeah, so we had the 40 by 80 shed, and then we added on 50 feet. That was 40 by 130, and then we doubled that one year, and we added the office on the other side. And then eventually that still wasn't enough, so we had to build the shop in the back, way back,
Yeah.
for the personal stuff, I guess, so that the sheds could be the business. Yeah, and then you showed up somewhere in there, Matt.
I did.
And speaking of those orange canoes, your wife did go down the river with me in those orange
Yes,
canoes.
I remember her talking about that.
Yeah.
And I remember pictures of her at your cabin.
Right.
On
So
Mead
we're all
Lake.
we're kind of small town USA here, everybody.
Right,
so,
right.
yeah.
cool.
The funny part is, Cindy, is so you and my wife were very good friends.
Right,
You
in high
stood
school.
up with each other in weddings and stuff like that there. You
Right.
knew each other for a long time.
Yeah.
And I remember Julie, before I even was working at AMS, I remember her bringing the AMS safety slides home.
Oh,
And she would do that at nighttime. She would pack
she
those
packed
up.
them for us.
And that's when we had that little heat gun, and we had to crimp the
Sure.
plastic on there and stuff. So Julie was doing work for you guys
Yep, yeah.
a long time ago.
funny.
And I remember she came home one day and she goes, "Man, they're getting really busy. Cindy needs some more help." And I'm like,
Oh, yeah. Matt's been around a long time too. 15 years this year. by the way.
15
Holy
years,
cow.
yeah.
Yeah. And Derek, what are you? You're 5 something, aren't you?
I'm going on, in June
7?
it'll be 7.
7.
Wow.
Okay.
I know.
Very
It's
cool.
crazy.
Yeah.
I was 9 years old when Matt started working here. Just to throw that out for everybody.
Oh, that is
See all
kinda
that gray
sad.
hair right there?
Oh, funny.
That's really cool. So I just want to look back at some of this. I have some dates here, Cindy. 2003 and 2006, you're shooting stingrays in
Okay.
Virginia.
Yep. We went out
All
to
right.
Virginia.
2003, you shot your first paddlefish bow fishing.
Right.
I
Lincoln,
mean,
South Dakota.
so you're shooting stingrays and paddlefish before a lot of people even know what bow fishing is.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're out there on the water doing this.
Right.
2004, you went to Louisiana with a women's outdoor group. Was
Yeah,
that?
I had met a couple ladies at another women's archery hunt that we kind of hit it off or whatever, and I invited them to go down to shoot some fish in Louisiana.
That's really cool.
Yeah, the shark. Yeah, that's right. The shark trip was before then, right? But
Because really back then, we're talking about a totally male-dominated sport.
yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yep.
I mean, so when I look at a lot of the pictures of you bow fishing with your the fish that you had shot, it's you and then like 4 guys or 5 guys or 6 guys
Right.
in the background or holding up their fish too.
Right.
So you have never felt intimidated doing that stuff because I see what you do. I mean, if you don't know Cindy, she'll jump in an excavator and she'll move dirt.
Oh yeah,
She's
absolutely.
out there building. I mean, backing backhoes and doing a ton of sled dogs.
Yeah,
I mean,
I do that too.
You run
I did
sled.
that,
You
yeah.
did that. You used to have how many dogs did you have at one time?
I'd say an average of 20, but at one time I did have 30
Yep.
dogs.
And you
Or
would
puppies.
run them.
Yeah, I
you
used
had your
to,
sled?
I'd run them with the dog sled. I would
Yep.
train them in the fall, and we'd hook up 8, 10, 12 dogs to my four-wheeler, and I'd run in the fall and go around the land there, and I had permission to run the neighbors, and then I'd get them on the sled in the winter, and my daughter and I would go dog sledding.
That's
We'd
cool.
have each so many dogs. You need that because
Yeah.
you've got we had 2 mushers, me and my daughter, and I'd always take 10 dogs. She'd take 8, so always we needed 18 to 20 dogs
Wow.
for solid teams, and then if we had any youngsters that we wanted to train up, they needed to be there too. So, and Jeff and Sawyer, they were always in charge of grooming trails and setting the trail with the snowmobile. So that was their job. And Sear and I did the dogs and the scoop and poop and feeding and all that business.
That's
So,
cool. Yeah, everyone had a role.
yeah,
Right,
everybody had a
yeah,
job
right.
to do. We always had jobs. But yeah,
So getting back to the bow fishing part of it here, this one here I think is so cool. In 2005, you went to Louisiana and you shot a shark.
yeah,
I mean, just think about that. In 2005, you went and shot a shark. Like I said before, a lot of people even knew what bow fishing was.
Right.
yeah.
And you were
Right.
shooting stingrays and shark and going to Louisiana bow fishing and shooting paddlefish. That's just unreal. That's so cool, you know? 2007, you went to Texas and you shot some giant smallmouth buffs. I remember there was a picture of you holding like a big 50
some
plus.
52, I think it was 50
Yeah,
pounds. Yeah,
just a giant buff. And then you went back down there in 08 and shot an alligator. Or no, in 08 you went to Florida and shot an alligator.
right.
That had to be pretty cool to.
Yeah, the gator hunt, that was great. I shot a 10'4" gator. It just all worked out. I know it was perfect. It was it's just all of those things are just unique experiences that I don't know, they're just kind of priceless, really.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. But for a lot of you that are out there listening, you know, just think about what Cindy was doing.
Yeah.
You know, she's making the bow fishing gear. She's shooting. You know, these aren't carp. You know,
Yeah,
these aren't your
right.
run around carp. You know, she's shooting sharks, stingrays, and alligator gar and stuff. And that's really cool because, you know, I really believe that you, Cindy, are actually one of the great pioneers for the sport of bow fishing.
Absolutely.
For everything that you have done for the sport. I would have really liked to see you get into the Bow Fishing Association Hall of Fame. I think you belong in there. You know, I think your dad belongs in there as well because he's a pioneer of the sport of bow fishing, and I think that would be a great honor. And I think you're well deserved of that as well, Cindy. You know, some of the things. You know, I remember from like 2004 to 2008, you were always going over to Minnesota.
Yeah.
At Lino Lakes, I think it was, and
Lino or Lino, whatever.
Lino or something like that there,
Sounds funny, yeah.
and taking a bunch of, it was a kids bow fishing event,
Oh,
and
right,
you were a
yeah.
huge supporter of
It
that.
was a special day that we always set aside to go take out boatloads of kids. It was
Yep.
with a great
that's
group.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And you're always so involved with the youth. You started, you know, here in Stratford, you started the EPOC, the Old Plain Outdoors Club, and the Stratford NASP programs.
Right.
You guys started all that stuff out. So you love the kids' involvement, the youth involvement in the sport of bow fishing. I know every time I come to Cindy and I say, hey, Cindy, there's this guy's looking for, you know, you got a little youth event coming up, you know, oh, yeah, you know, help them out
Right.
and stuff like that
Right.
there, get them set up. So I think, you know, what you have done for the sport is just unreal. I think it's awesome. And I don't think a lot of people really appreciate what you do because they really don't see a lot of Cindy Braun when it comes to bow fishing. Because what do you guys like to do on the weekends?
Well, we definitely used to, we always were out hunting, fishing, doing whatever. But now as we getting a little older, we just like to go up north and chill. And this is all great, and we love what we do and whatnot. But sometimes you need to get away from it too a little bit.
Right.
So we just go up north and chill and come
Absolutely.
back down and put in another week. You
Absolutely.
know? So it's just how it is. But yeah.
Because we had a tug on your arm for 4 years. We finally got you in here to the Bowfishing Buzz podcast.
Yes.
I don't really like to be front and center, that's for sure. So this is hard for me.
Yep.
That's
but
good.
no.
I got a couple questions for you, Cindy. Just I
Okay.
wrote some stuff down. If we could go through these quick. Did you ever see both the sport of bow fishing and the company AMS Bowfishing blowing into what it is today? Did you ever predict that it could be as big as it is right now?
No, I really didn't. I thought that when I started out, I thought this would be a great little thing for me to do. I can raise my kids, I can work out of the home and have the kids, and that's all it's going to be is this little in my backyard business. But no, 1 year led to the next, and every year we'd have probably added an employee. So things just kind of kept developing and took off.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because now we're sending out all. I always think it's crazy. People at shows and stuff, Matt, I'm sure you hear it. Cindy, you probably hear it too. People always ask, oh, you guys have to be a humongous company, and we really don't have. For as much product as we assemble and ship out, we're rather small in the big scheme of things, and that's so cool that it stayed. Right here in Stratford, I've always thought that there's a lot of pride that went into developing the business.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can remember building arrows back out at the old shop. And I remember building these arrows, and I remember this is like when I first, my first year, half a year into, and we were building arrows with Bernice. Bernice was a big arrow builder back in the day.
Right.
And I remember building these arrows, and I'm thinking, man, these are going into Bass Pro Shops. I better make these look nice and fancy and make sure that the clams are all nice and even and stuff. And for me to know that we were building something that was going into a Bass Pro Shop, so I'm like, oh my gosh, this is
The real
really
deal.
Cool. Yeah. We're not messing around here.
No.
We're real now.
Yeah.
I mean, we were real,
time.
but this is exciting to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Cindy, if you could tell first-year business owner Cindy Braun one piece of advice based off of what you know now, what would it be?
I don't know.
It's kind of a loaded question.
You just gotta follow your gut and do what's right. I never really thought it would grow, and I just ran the business like I would expect a business to be run. If your customer needs something, the customer needs something. Take care of them, and there's really no question. You just did what you needed to do to do it right.
Yeah.
And I'm not one for cutting corners, and if it's not right, fix it. You probably have seen that attitude. But it's just do what you think is the best and the right way to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Follow your gut.
Follow your gut, really,
That's
and
awesome.
just roll.
Yeah.
You
And one of the things that I know you're very proud of is we build a lot of our products right here in house.
Right.
I know you're proud to put that American flag on your
Right.
on your catalogs and to keep business right here.
Right. Right. Definitely.
Because we can ship out stuff so much faster that way. Also, we're not relying on stuff coming from overseas.
Right. And I guess that's one thing. I guess as far as that goes, when we started out and we were small, and actually when we started to get into arrows, I have this image in my mind of that fixture that we built to handle the sloppy points that we were buying from a different manufacturer, because at the time we weren't manufacturing our own points.
Right.
Okay.
So we had to build this fixture to hold the oversized points so that the arrows would line up center in the things. And so as we were starting to use everybody else's junk, to say it bluntly, that just wasn't good enough. And I'm like, well, I can't deal with this. We can't deal with this. Our customers shouldn't deal with this. So that's also the attitude, I guess, that I have, is that, make it right.
Sure.
That's where things just developed, and you're so much more in control of quality, perfect product when you can handle it yourself.
Yep.
So and build it yourself and have it in your own shop.
Absolutely. That outlook on it, I think, is the biggest reason why AMS Bowfishing is what it is today. Personally, I think that's That's huge.
We've got a lot of, like you said, quality control.
Yeah.
We can go out there and look at specs. You know, you can look
Right.
at specs out of every part that's being
Right.
pumped out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
You measure
Absolutely.
them and stuff.
We talked about a lot of really cool memories that you had, Cindy, through the last couple decades of doing this. Does any one specific memory or highlight stick out to you? Like when you think back on everything that you would like to share?
Oh, I don't know. The stupid orange Coleman canoes
Okay.
always come in my mind. So that is my bow fishing, whether it was bow fishing or not, memory. That was it, I guess. But I guess all of it. It's just it's definitely been an adventure and still is an adventure, and that's just
Yep.
every year we come up with something.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
something to do, some fish to chase, whatever.
If you only had an idea of how many smiles, you just think about that.
Yeah.
Over all these years with the retriever and bow fishing, and how many smiles you have put on a kid's face, an
Yeah, I
adult's
guess,
face
yeah.
after they shot their first fish bow fishing, that's pretty crazy. That's pretty awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Millions.
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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably millions. I'm
Yeah.
sure millions.
Yeah.
Surely, for sure.
Wow. Another thing when you think about AMS bow fishing is when somebody calls here for a question or they have an issue or they can't figure something out and they call us, they're not being when the phone picks up, it's not a
Recording of some kind.
of something,
Right.
Right.
You're talking to one of the ladies in the office or somebody else right away.
Yeah.
Right.
You're talking to the people who assemble and build the product and use the product.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's huge. I mean,
Yeah.
customer service here, I see that a lot in a lot of the comments and reviews is the customer service. And I think that's one thing that you're also
Right.
proud of also.
Right. Everybody's
you know?
kind of got hands-on experience and
Right.
knowledge of the product like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Cindy, do you have anything else that you would like to add to the Bowfishing Buzz podcast? So many years in the business, and like I said, I think you are a pioneer of this sport of bow
Absolutely.
fishing.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
I guess, just thanks to everybody that supported us over
Sure.
the years.
Yep.
We're always here. We've been here, and we're gonna keep being here. So, just appreciate everything that everybody's done for us. And we'll keep trying to provide for everybody else. So.
That's right. Well, thank you for joining
Sure.
us on the Bowfishing Buzz podcast. And with that, Schmitty, we got anything else to finish out the old podcast?
Well, I tell you what, Matt, we do these last couple of weeks. We've been doing the quote.
Oh boy,
Quote
that's right.
in the boat
That's
little
right.
segment here. So let me find my little quote here. I think you're gonna like this one.
Am I gonna have a chance to know this one?
I'm just gonna tell you this right now. This might give it away a little bit. You should guess very easily who said this quote.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So the quote today: some people want it to happen, some wish it would happen, and others make it happen. Who do you think said that quote? And this goes perfectly with having Cindy on because she made it happen. All right?
Oh boy.
Let's just see if Matt can guess who had that quote.
Was that your basketball player?
No.
No?
Nope.
I'm gonna need another clue.
It's your basketball player.
Well, it was a basketball player then.
Yeah, it wasn't my basketball player.
Oh, that's MJ.
It was Michael Jordan.
MJ.
Absolutely.
The
That
GOAT.
was his.
That's the real GOAT, folks.
Okay. Well, that's a whole nother topic
podcast.
there that we could get into. Yes, Michael Jordan. Now, Matt, how can you relate that to the sport of bow fishing? That quote.
I'm gonna say that can be related to bow fishing, looking into tournaments.
Okay.
All right. You make things happen in a tournament. Decisions are made,
That could make or break your night.
that can make a break. Exactly.
Yeah.
Do we stay? Do we move? Do we go to a different lake? Do we run, over here? Do we leave these fish and go try to find bigger fish? I think that quote has a lot to do with bow fishing and never giving up. I know a couple years ago we were shooting in the Bass Pro US Open, and we had 2 fish in the barrel at midnight.
Ooh.
That's not good.
No.
We had to make a call. What do we do?
Yeah.
And we made a decision. We went and we shot some fish, and we ended up taking 4th place
Oh, wow.
in the U.S. Open that year. From having 2 fish in the boat at midnight to finishing in 4th place. I mean, it's a big tournament.
Did you make a big run, or did you totally change tactics to do that, or?
We changed tactics.
Okay.
Didn't make a big run. Stayed on the same lake.
Okay.
But we changed tactics and tried something different.
Sure.
And it paid off. And that's never, not really giving up.
You made it happen. Yeah. Yep.
Like the quote from the last time I told you how we kind of gave up and didn't do our part.
This is the other way around.
The opposite way around.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. So that's how I think that could be associated with bowfishing is never give up. You never know what's going to happen. A lot of times fish can move in well after midnight to certain flats, certain shorelines, certain feeding habitats, barometric pressure. A lot of things can change. And you got to stick with it. You'd be surprised at what might happen if you're thinking about giving up.
Yeah.
And sticking with it.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was wrapped in very well.
Ooh, man.
Good
And
deal.
like you said, this was not scripted.
No, this is I never tell Matt who or what the quote is. It's all on the spot.
Yeah,
so
this is right off the...
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Well, Matt, I think we can get now into our product highlight.
All right.
With the season heating up, I think a great product highlight would be our Watermark recurve bow that we sell here at AMS.
Beautiful, sleek-looking little recurve.
Go retro with this sleek takedown recurve bow. The Watermark got its name from the combination of all of its great features. High performance, lightweight, water resistant, sleek, quick, and snappy are just a few of its features that show this bow is made for bow fishing and life on the water. Quick takedown, fully laminated limbs, powder-coated riser, Flemish bowstring. A few of the specs, it's 45 pounds of draw weight at 28 inches of draw. Tip to tip, it's 58 inches. Brace height of 7 3/4. String length is 54 inches. There's a video out there, Matt. We did this 2 years ago. You set up the Watermark at the boat landing, and within 10 minutes, we were shooting fish with the Watermark.
Yep.
You took it straight out of the package.
I did.
And set it up, and we were shooting fish with it 10 minutes later.
Yes, we were. It was a good little bow to get. It's awesome. It works great. Love it.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful,
check it out.
Beautiful little setup right
Check
here
out
at
the
AMS
Watermark.
Bowfishing and Watermark. So from all of us at AMS Bowfishing, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this podcast. And you hear a big clunking that was in the background. That was me knocking over my water container here. Sorry about that. I looked up and I saw my camera had stopped running. I was panicking. So I had to get up and thank gosh we got a backup camera on here to get the end of this podcast rolling here. But no, thanks to you everybody for listening to the Bowfishing Buzz podcast presented by AMS Bowfishing and
Bigmouth Buffs.
From all of us at AMS Bowfishing, we wish you the best of luck. And remember, aim low,
Think big. Thanks for listening, everybody.